React from hooks. All right, let's check this out a little bit. Figure out what I'm doing today. All right, so I have this modal called create classroom, and you're supposed to be able to type in some info and have that persist to the backend. So I think what we need to do is figure out how to create like a classroom called like JavaScript introduction class, a class for teaching JavaScript. When I click create, I'm getting a console log down here on the submit. I think we just need to do something with that. So I'm using React hook form, which I'm still trying to understand the API, but it's pretty easy to use, I believe. Basically, you have a form here. You call use form. You get back a on submit. You get back a register. You get back like a form state errors. And whenever handle submit is actually called, this is like a factory function that you pass a function. And whenever this is called, that's when you know you have the proper form data. All right, so data is printing out with just like the form information. And I think all we really need to do is we need to push that over to the backend. So let's just go ahead and see in our router if we have a way to create classrooms. Doesn't look like it. So maybe we should add a new mutation. I'll just do it down here at the bottom so it's kind of grouped with these other ones. So mutation, I'll say create classroom. And the way tRPC works, for whoever doesn't really know, it's you have queries and you have mutations. Mutations are the things that are going to change your data. Queries are the things that are going to fetch data. So it's really similar to like GraphQL, I guess. GraphQL also has like queries and mutations. But I'm going to copy what we have here. And when you create a classroom, what do we actually need? Well, we probably need a name, which will be a string, and a description. We'll probably need more things in the future, but again, like just do iterative development and just do the simplest thing first and then add on to it. We might find out in the future that a modal isn't the best approach for creating a new classroom. It could be something else. But it's always good to just experiment, test it out, get it in front of real users, get feedback, and refactor as needed. All right, so what this endpoint needs to do is it needs to basically do nothing for right now. So we have a clean slate. And I'm going to say create a classroom using the name and description. So how do you do that? Well, with tRPC, every resolve function has a context. And the context is defined here in this context file where you have access to request and res. These are like the underlying next, rec, and res. Usually you don't really need them. Just in case you do, and you need to like look at a header or look at a token or something, you can do that here. Then you have the session, which is, I'm using next auth. And the session is going to be like if you're logged in or not. And then we got Prisma. That's our database connection library. So let's just go ahead and do context Prisma dot. And then typically you have like a list of all your different models. So I'll say classroom. And then you have a bunch of methods you can use. And we want to create one. So we could do create. And then typically, oh, I keep saying typically this morning, you pass it a data and then you could pass it what you want. So I'm going to say name is input.name. Description is input.description. And what you can also do is do a control space and it'll tell you what else might be required. In this example, we probably need to give it a user ID, excuse me, and that could come straight from the session. So let me show you something. On this router, I have a middleware set up that verifies that you're actually logged in before you can hit any of these queries or mutations. And if you are logged in, you get this session that's already going to be defined here. So what we could do, I could say context session dot user dot ID. Now I will put a to do here because I think this should only be allowed for teacher roles. So I should probably add some type of check to make sure that like students are creating classrooms, right? I want to check here or check in the middleware that all of these things, or maybe not all of them, but a lot of them are kind of only teacher specific. So I need to kind of figure that out. Okay, let's read this error. Expected type come from property data, which is declared here on select. Name, description, and user ID is not assignable to type, blah, blah, blah. Object literal may only specify known properties and description does not exist. So let's look at a Prisma model. Maybe I didn't add a description here. Yeah, so this has no description. So going back, I mean, let's just delete it for now. What is it complaining about now? Isn't it data? This is how we created it down here with an assignment. You pass it data. This is how we created it here, classroom.create. Guess we'll hover over it. Name and user ID is not assignable to type, blah, blah, blah. Not assignable to type. Property user ID are incompatible. Incompatible? Well, I guess this could potentially be undefined, which doesn't make sense because it's like we'd always have it be defined. So we could probably put an exclamation mark here, although we're going to get some complaints. Let's say user ID is equal to context session user. Const user ID is equal to user.id, exclamation mark. Object is possibly undefined. Okay, so I'm kind of confused because I thought I went up here and I made this thing. I guess it could still be undefined. Doesn't really make sense. Why would you have a session and not have a user? But let me just do this. All right, so they don't like, my ESLint doesn't like it when you use the exclamation marks. So instead, I'm going to say if not user, then you probably just want to throw an error. And I might come back and clean this up in a bit, but there's ways to throw tRPC errors here. And I'm just going to throw an unauthorized error if you don't have the user for whatever reason. I'm not sure why you wouldn't. You don't have the user or you don't have the ID. I'm going to throw an error. That'll at least clean up my TypeScript errors, I believe. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Welcome, welcome. How is it going? Yeah, like always, anyone who's watching the stream, you can feel free to join my Discord and just be part of the community, help other people out, especially if you're good at programming. That's one thing I always want to get more people on the Discord for. Like if you're already kind of good at programming, there's people out there who really need help. And going to other places like Stack Overflow and asking questions is not really a good way to get help because there's a lot of like elitists who are not really friendly when you ask questions that are kind of beginner. But okay, so we have this tRPC mutation. That's what we're working on. Create classroom, takes in some data, throws an unauthorized error if you're not authorized. And then it creates the classroom, and we should probably return that too. Typically with like endpoints that deal with posting or like creation, you want to return the data that was just created. So create the classroom and return it. And then over here on submit, we need to make it so when they click on this create button, it actually like submits a classroom request to the backend. I'm going to delete description for right now because that was something additional that I thought I added to Prisma and I didn't. So I'm going to delete it. And then we go. How do I delete these things? I forget how you like hover over these autofills and like delete them. Does anyone know? Oh, here it is. It's function shift command to delete these things. Sometimes they like get filled up with all this like stuff we don't want. JavaScript classroom. All right, so I click create. This button is going to submit the form, and we need to send a mutation request to the backend. All right, so how do we do that? Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull in the tRPC library that we have. So I'm going to say const create classroom is equal to tRPC, which is in a utils folder here. And then I'm going to go ahead and say use mutation. I'm going to go ahead and autocomplete that to create classroom. And that's all you got to do for that. And then I'm going to, inside of this to-do that we added, I'm going to go ahead and call mutate. I typically use mutate async, but you can also use mutate if you don't want to wait on stuff. Because we want to actually wait and know when this thing's done. I'm going to wait on mutate async. And then this thing takes some data. So we need to pass it just name for right now, which will come from data.name. And I need to put an async here so we can call it argument of type name is not assignable. Okay, so it thinks name is any. So let's see if we can figure out how to like use types. So again, I've only used React form, hook form for like one other side project for like one page. So I'm still trying to understand. But they do have a TypeScript section. So let's see if there's a way to like scope this stuff. Use form. You can pass it a type and that will describe your form data. Pretty cool. So let's go ahead and go here to the top. I'm going to go ahead and say like create classroom form. And that takes in a name and that's it. I think that's all we need. And we're going to scope using generics. We're going to pass that in here as the type. And now data should get back. I thought this would get back the name. First name and last name will have the correct types. There's something I'm missing here. React hook form is built with TypeScript and you can define a form data type to support form values. When in doubt, restart TypeScript server. But I think I might just have to put colons here and like tell this what it is. Okay, they're doing it actually, they're doing it a little bit different. They are going to do, they're doing handle submit here like this. Don't know if that will, yeah, okay, that's how you do it. Okay. Sometimes in TypeScript, it matters where you declare your functions and how you call them. Like the fact that I was calling handle submit down here, it's like disconnecting the inferred types or whatever from that function I had. So instead of doing the handle submit on the form submission down here in the DOM, you do it here so that you're quickly able to get the same type matched up. You see how that says create classroom form now? Which is what we want. But if you click on this, we're still getting errors. And I think it's because my backend thing still expects this description. So I'm gonna delete that. And come on. Okay, no more errors anymore. Awesome. So what happens when we actually create this and it's successful? Well, we should probably, what should we do? We should probably close this modal. The question is where is this modal state handled? It's handled on the classroom screen, I believe. Let me give you a little walkthrough of this. I have a classroom screen, which is what's showing your classrooms with this like placeholder person in the background. And when this page loads, we load all the classrooms for this teacher ID. We have some derived state to know, like, should we show the empty state? Should we actually show the classrooms, or should we show a loader? Should create classroom modal. And this is the modal. So I think it would make more sense to have this modal have another property called like onComplete. And you can do whatever you want here. I mean, I'm just going to inline it right now and just close the modal. Like so. And we could abstract this away since we have like two calls to the same thing if you wanted to, and we can make it more like generic. So we could say like const close modal is going to call that. Maybe make it more specific too. Close classroom modal. And I'm going to move this state variable to the top because typically I have state at the very top. I don't know why I had it down there. And then typically my functions would come right after that. Derived is always like at the end, right before you get to the view. And then this could be like anything else. But I'm going to call close classroom modal for both of these. So if you cancel, we're going to close it. If it's complete, you know what? We actually need to do more stuff. I'm going to go ahead and say like const handle, see classroom modal complete. We can think of a better name in a second, but we need to do some things here, such as refetch the classrooms from this mutation that we have. And now that I think about it, maybe it makes more sense to put your functions after your like mutations. I don't know. I'm going back and forth between like different patterns of how I should do stuff, and I can't land on like what's my favorite. Like I did the MVC stuff, and then I started using it, and I'm like, I started doubting it, and I'm like, dude, this might be over engineering. Like I could see its benefit in a large project with a lot of people on a large team, but for a little side project, I don't know. OnComplete is going to call this method. Why is this red though? Oh, because I haven't defined it here. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the classroom modal. I'm going to declare onComplete, which should probably come back and type these things. But we should call it here. So everything's completed. We should call it. Probably good. Let me get rid of some stuff that we're not using. It would make sense to probably type these. So on cancel could just be a function that does nothing. So cancel void. And then on complete again could be a function that does nothing. Let's see, where are we at? So what does this thing need to do? It needs to refresh the classroom. So when you're using React Query and tRPC, there are methods you can use. So like if I were to go ahead and grab a method called refetch here, I could just call it, and that's going to tell the underlying custom hook of React Query to like go back and refetch the data from the backend. And luckily, since we're using React Query, like we don't have to actually provide a custom like Axios function. It's just going to do it behind the scenes using fetch and stuff, I believe. Fetch the classroom. And then I don't really like the names of some of these things. Like we could abstract this away into a custom hook. I'm still debating if that's even worth doing. Sometimes I feel like it's also like over engineering. If you only have one function you can look through and like understand everything, sometimes that's easier. Refetch classrooms. Like just something like that. Instead of calling it refetch, and instead of calling this data, like you can rename these to something more specific. You let me know in the comments. Would you all put this in a custom hook to abstract away like data and refetch, or would you just keep it inline here? At this point, I don't think it's really that big of a deal to pull this out to a separate function because it's pretty easy to like understand like how this is being used, I think. All right, let's see if this thing works. Let's create a classroom. I'm gonna type in like JavaScript classroom, click create. It should close the modal. It did not close the modal. It actually threw an error. Each child in a list should have a key prop. Okay, so we can fix that one. But then we also need to remember to close the modal. So where are we doing map? We're doing map here. Probably makes sense to have this be a div so we can like style it if we want to. I'm gonna put a key classroom dot ID. And then closing the modal should happen handle classroom modal complete. I'm gonna say close the classroom modal here. All right, that's another reason why it's good to have these like little helper functions that wrap the lower level underlying state logic. Because you see how clean this is? Refetch classrooms, close the modal. More of like a declarative approach to coding. And I know it adds like more functions to your actual like component, but if you can wrap, it's kind of like encapsulation where you're like taking some underlying lower level implementation detail and you're wrapping it in getters and setters or like custom functions so that you're abstracting away like what exactly is this state. Maybe you don't care what the state is, right? What if this was actually not a Boolean and this was like an object or something else? Well, now everywhere in your code has to know that that thing was a Boolean. And this is a bad example. Like here, this one should also be like kind of abstracted away potentially. You could do this. You could also argue this is over engineering. But I'm going to go ahead and just do it anyway to kind of show my point. I'll just do this. So now we have these two functions that kind of wrap. Man, my voice keeps cracking. To wrap these underlying state implementations. And now, like, if you wanted to hide it or show it, you look through the code and it's pretty simple. Like, you don't see. You get my point, I hope. All right, let's click create. The modal went away. And we got some classrooms. So if I refresh this page, let's make sure. I'm going to go ahead and make this throttling of fast. Refresh. We should see like a spinner for a little bit. Yeah, maybe fast is a little too slow. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the best way to simulate that. I wanted to show the spinner for longer. I mean, we could either hack this at the back end. Like here, we could just like not return. We could say await new promise, resolve, set timeout, resolve, 2 seconds. So that'll force the backend to wait 2 seconds before I get back some data. So I don't need to do the throttling because it does take a long time to like load all this other stuff. So if I refresh, we should. I thought we would. Okay, this is the wrong one. Create classroom. Where's get classrooms? Do you know of a better way to do this? I'm just trying to simulate the loader for 2 seconds. That's it. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do. You can add that to the front end if you want to simulate it and test it out, or add it to the back end. But let's go to chat and see if people have been asking questions. Let's see. What is up? What is up? So someone's asking, what am I making? This was like a community project that my Discord was like working on, but everyone disappeared after the first day of saying they're going to work on it. But I wanted to like just create an application where you can go and create like online classrooms. So for example, if I wanted to make a JavaScript classroom and I could have students join, that classroom could have a certain start date and end date, and I could start uploading assignments and lessons. People can also upload their homework, have deadlines to that. So basically imagine like going to school, you have like all the features that you need for a school, like the ability to read resource materials, upload assignments, maybe chat with other students, get help from other students. And that's it. It's just for fun, something to work on. I always need random content to make on my YouTube channel. So that's kind of why I work on like random projects. Why is my CSS so good? I don't know if it's good. I'm using Tailwind, so it makes it nice to use, I guess. Let's see. What is a mutation request? A mutation request, if you're like, let me take a step back. I'm using tRPC, so to change data in the backend, we do something called mutations. I believe something, I think GraphQL also uses the term mutations in queries. So it's basically like a post request in REST. Like I have some data, my front end needs to save that somewhere, so I'm going to do a post request. That's considered a mutation because you're mutating the actual like server state. Hopefully that answers your question. I don't really do mentors. I don't have time. You can join my Discord and try to find people to talk to and ask for help. I think there's a lot of people there who are willing to help you if you have questions and you get stuck and can guide you. Let's see. I don't know about that. I'm not going to help debug your email issue right now, but you can join the Discord again and try to get help there. Why not create a const toggle classroom modal and set it to show? Well, I guess you'd have to look, is this toggle functionality? So if I look at this, in fact, where's my create classroom button? It's gone. This show create classroom modal. Where's the button? So I should probably put this somewhere else. So we have the empty state here and we have the classroom state. We could probably put the create classroom at the top here. Probably want to like, where would this make sense? On the right, on the left, at the bottom? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But he's asking about toggle. If you look at the code, create, close and show. You know, I'm going to rename this to open, not show. I'm going to say open. All right, so you want to use toggle when you have the ability to toggle. If you look at this, when I click on this button, the modal blocks the entire screen behind it. So how can I click on the button again? You can't. So there's no way to toggle it. If this was a page where you had like a drop down and a button, and you could keep on clicking to toggle that. In fact, I think I could show you exactly that. I mean, technically I could toggle it here, but I'd rather be more specific. Like when I click cancel, I don't want it to call a toggle function. I want it to call a close function because that's what it's doing. It should close the modal. You'll get into a situation sometimes where like you'll click on a cancel button and because you're calling a toggle state, it like doesn't properly close it. Anyway, I hope I got that point across. But this is an example over here of when you want to use toggling. You see that? I can click on the button, it shows it. I click it again, it hides it. That's a good example of when you toggle. This modal is not a good example of when you can toggle because I can't click it again. I rather just explicitly close it. All right, any more questions? Let's see. Mutation requests are just post-patch delete requests since mutating data. Keep it in line. No custom hooks in this case for me. Is there any good tutorials how to set up tRPC config all the routers? I don't know. I just use the T3 create T3 project. Honestly, like create T3 app. I would just use this and not worry about setting it up. Like just go here. I can put a link. This is what I do. I just run this thing and just get everything going because I don't want to spend 2 hours trying to configure all this boilerplate. I could figure it out. I just don't want to. Just a lot of extra time. Daisy UI has a modal that's easy to use. I am using Daisy UI actually. So if you look at the modal up here, I'm importing React Daisy UI. And then here's the modal, open, true. Now here's the thing. I don't like having, the reason I'm hard coding open to true is that I want this component to actually mount and unmount so it clears out any type of state. I'm not a fan of having like the modals sticking around in the DOM, which is why I'm doing this. I rather the screen be in control of when that modal shows or not, instead of passing a property down. That's just my preference though. I mean, I could have said like is open, pass in the is open thing, which works as well, but now this thing will always be displayed basically. Like all of this stuff, if you have any more like state variables or something, I believe that'll stick around in state, which is not exactly what we want. In fact, I could probably show that real quick. If I just always have this displayed like so, and I went ahead and made this taken a is open. I'm getting sidetracked now answering a question, but hopefully this actually helps prove my point. What did I call it? I called it something over here. Show classroom modal. Okay, so now the modal should use the isOpen boolean to display the modal or not. So if I go back to classrooms, it's still hidden. If I type something in and cancel it, I believe the state is still persisted. Right? So if that's the functionality that you want, if you want it to be persisted because the modal is always on the DOM and it never unmounts, then you can do that. I would rather the modal be a brand new fresh state when you open it up. So let me show you what I mean. I'm typing in some stuff here. And if I revert what I just did and go back to the other approach, let me go ahead and just do it here. Type something in, cancel, go back. Notice that it cleared out the modal state. That's kind of why I rather it unmount and remount based on using this like conditional statement versus having it always exist on the page. Because there could be a bunch of cleanup functions that I want, and I don't want to have to like use an effect on the isOpen, and then when isOpen changes, run some custom code to clear out the form and unset any of the errors. I'd rather it just be a brand new state and have all the errors brand new, like empty object, have all the form values empty object. I think you get my point. But it's just a personal preference. Let's see. No, I'm not refactoring code. I'm actually trying to build something in this stream. That you could do a hook for toggling the modal on and off. I would love to help, but I'm a new... Jesus. All right. Someone's asking, love the help, but I'm new at tRPC and Prisma. I usually work with Firebase and Next. Yeah, I mean, anyone's welcome to contribute. I'm not too serious about getting people to help out because people say they're going to help out, and then after about 2 days, they disappear forever. So I'd rather just work on it myself, and then people can look at the code and try to see the way I'm doing some things if they want to learn from it. How are you structuring your project? Hugo asks. This is Next, and I'm using kind of like a starter kit of like the project structure. So there's a lot of stuff I didn't have to think about. But what I'm trying to do, and I'm still debating in my head, like what is the best approach, is the next pages, we have like the actual like next page. And inside of this, you have the ability to set what you want in the head. I have a header layout, which just takes in some children, and it's going to wrap that in a div that has a header in it. Pretty straightforward. So all my pages that have headers will do something like this. And I can change the title here if I wanted to. Welcome to the online classroom. But then I have, if I go to the actual page we're working on, which I believe is the classroom. So let's go to classrooms and go to index. Again, same structure. I have some get server-side props here to know if you're authenticated or not. I don't know if I want to do this in the front end or the back end. I don't know if it makes sense to like have to actually request data from the server to know if you're logged in. I could just have the UI redirect you. Because in my opinion, if you don't have to go to the server, then don't do it. And just making a single request to go to the server seems like it's kind of unnecessary, but I guess that's the whole point in Next. They, server-side rendering. I kind of want to do client-side rendering though, because it just makes more sense to me. If you don't have to do a trip to the server, it's just slower. But again, I only use Next for my side projects, so I don't use Next in production. So some of the stuff I'm saying is probably not proper. But anyway, so this is the classroom page, and this uses a classroom screen. This is the approach I'm trying to take. I've seen some other people do this, where the main component that actually displays the entire screen of what you're doing, call it a screen. And the screen is what I have my state, my queries, some helper functions, my derives, and then that's it. And then anything else that's part of this screen, like the modal, for example, since this modal is only ever used on this screen, I'm putting it in the classroom's folder here. And then if I get more components, I'll put them here. And then if this file gets too large, I'll make a new components folder and I'll put them nested in there probably. But I try to reduce the amount of folders and stuff that I need. Like even this, like a components folder that has 2 things in it, I probably would have just put this right in the teacher dashboard. It's fine. But that's kind of how I'm structuring my app. I mean, we have other components like shared components, like the header. That is just in a common directory. If I had buttons or if I had anything else or a footer, I put them in this common. And then layouts goes here. Pages, that's kind of, you know what pages is if you use Next. Server is where I have all the tRPC stuff set up. So I have my classroom router and I have the index that sets up my tRPC setup. What else we got? Assets, so images, pretty standard for Next. Styles. This is just loading in my Tailwind stuff, I believe. So nothing too. I think I'm sorry, I'm going too fast. This is just loading in styles. That's it. And then utils, again, that's some more stuff that we just use throughout the entire application, or I don't know why tRPC is in the utils, honestly. I probably would have put that in server, but. And then MVC wrapper, I need to delete and get that out of this code base. But yeah, that's my structure. Again, I didn't really think about much of this. I just use an existing one because why think about stuff if someone else already thought about it? What is your deployment strategy? I'm probably just going to use Vercel for this, but there's a cool thing with Amazon and Terraform and serverless where you can deploy all this stuff without using Vercel. I might try that out just because I don't want to get locked into Vercel because I hear they're pretty expensive. But I don't know if I'm even going to deploy this yet. This is just a little side project. Okay, I see what you mean, blushing fire. Yeah, you could do that too. I'm a fan of really specific functions. I like functions to be really, really specific to exactly what they do. So if you have, there's no point to having a function that takes in a Boolean that's true or false, because at that point, you could just kind of use the setter function here. But I just have certain preferences, the way I like to do stuff, and then I change my mind about a week later, so. I do have I have what's it called? I don't really use it that much. Varidesk, I believe. Gotta be careful what images come up. I think it's called the Varidesk. It's this thing. I have this, and I have my laptop sitting right here. And then I have all my streaming stuff sitting up here in the top level. So my lights and my camera. I don't really use the standing feature too often. Right now I'm just sitting down. But yeah, I think this is pretty cool. It's cool because you can quickly just bring it up and bring it down. It might be cheaper just to buy an automated desk because these things are actually kind of expensive, $425 or $207. It's pretty expensive. You could get an actual standing desk. But the benefit of this is you can take this and put it on any tabletop that you want. It's super heavy though, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's 40 pounds or 50 pounds to move around. It might even be more than that. It's pretty heavy. But yes, I do have a standing desk adapter thing or whatever. But you're losing the animation when you conditionally render the modal. I didn't even know there was animation. Honestly, I don't like animation. I think animation is just distracting for the user experience. But I do see your point. I didn't even know there was any. Let me go back and, let me commit what I have because I did make some changes and I do want to like continue breaking code. So I'm gonna go ahead and commit this. I'm gonna go ahead and say like adding the, let's see, create classroom mutation and hooking it up to the modal. Very good to always push your changes. Whenever you make a small little change or fix a little bug, just make a commit, push it. And while we're on that topic of the modal stuff, if we go back to that example that we were doing earlier, so let's pass is open. Let's just do this real quick because I think someone made a good point. I wasn't even thinking about the animations, so let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Let's see if this works. Click on that. Okay, so I mean, it has like a little fade-in animation, which is what you're losing with my approach. So yeah, I guess I could see the argument of why you want to have that be passed in. See, I'm already changing my mind. Okay, so then how would we make this clear out the modal state when it first loads? Like we'd have to use an effect, right? We'd have to listen to is open, and if it goes from false to true, or when we close it, we could do that. Maybe we just do that. I don't know. So like instead of calling on cancel here or calling on submit, I'm probably going to make a function called like with clear modal and just make like a decorator, which takes in a callback function, and we can just call the callback here, and we could call, is there like a reset? Let's call a reset here. So whenever someone tries to submit the modal, oh wait, hold on. Can't clear the modal yet because we need this. Am I making this too complicated? I probably am. I was trying to be cool and do like functional programming, but sometimes it's just more confusing. So make the request to the backend, reset the modal, call on complete. This one, handle cancel. This is a function that you call it. It's going to reset, and then it's going to do on cancel. Is there anything that we're missing here? So when we submit it, we are going to reset it. When we cancel, we reset it. So let's make sure that this works. So type in some stuff, cancel, type in some stuff, create, go back, it's cleared out. Okay, so thank you, chat, or whoever kind of pointed that out. That's a good point. Okay, so you definitely changed my perspective on that. So I'll go back and I'll just go ahead and go to the classroom screen, and I'm going to delete these little things here. And I'm going to go ahead and add, because we just made a small little change. I'll just go ahead and add that. I'll commit it and say, allowing the modal animations to work by changing where the conditional is used. And push that. You know, the one thing I found most beneficial to me in you having this YouTube like channel and doing streams is the fact that I have people who show me better ways to do stuff. Like I've learned so much from other people who come in here and tell me that like, why am I doing this? You should do that. And then I do it and it's like, okay. So y'all will watch my stream for information, but honestly, I'm learning a lot from all you all. So it's a great like give and take. Yeah, here's another, people people know what they're talking about. So let's see. I'm happy to learn tRPC with you, but wouldn't Strappy just be a simpler solution for this case? Maybe. I haven't used Strappy before. So I'd have to go and like learn how they set up authentication. I'd have to go and learn how you set up hooks for like when stuff happens. Because in Strappy, like, is there a way to create an endpoint and have it send off emails or create PDFs when like certain models are created? Like, I don't know how much flexibility or power you have with Strappy, because this isn't just like a, we're like dynamically creating classrooms and stuff, and you can edit them. So we're not just what's it called? What's Strappy called? It's like a type of, I'm having a brain fart. CMS. There it is. It's a headless CMS, I believe. What is the downside of keeping the modal mounted? I don't think there's really performance benefits. I mean, there might be like a small performance hit of keeping it mounted. I don't know. I don't know. I want to worry about it. From a UX point, it's better to keep the state of the modal persistent. Maybe. Also, I'm wondering, I can't hit escape to close the modal. I think that would probably, I need to look into that, but I was hoping React AZ UI would provide like an automatic hook to close the modal when you press escape. But yeah, I mean, this modal doesn't have that many inputs, and I think it makes more sense to delete the state. I can kind of Google that. I'm not a UX expert. You should really use extract refactors, not manually doing it. What does that mean? I've tried, like, are you talking about where I highlight something and you can right click on it and say like extract as extract to a function in module scope? Something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of stuck in my ways of doing things the manual way because I like actually verifying every line I type. And as I'm typing it, I can double check I'm doing it right. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense to just like highlight stuff and extract it if you wanted to. Let's see. An app idea seems pretty simple, but the structure is so complex. Can he see the chat? Is this main time? No, I'm using Tailwind and Daisy UI. No need to push every time, right? You can push later. Yeah, you can push at a later time if you want to. But I mean, I want to push in case someone's like actually looking at the repo as I'm doing some live coding. Yeah, so I think there's just he makes a good point. Every time if you want to have different modals attached to different things, like it's better to just like clear them out. It's just I don't know. I think we're talking about some low hanging fruit here. It doesn't really matter. Like different ways to do stuff. Just do whatever works for your project. But let's go ahead and see if we can add some more stuff. Maybe styling this stuff. Like, what should a classroom look like? As a teacher, you log in, you might have 3 or 4 different classrooms. How should that be displayed? I'm thinking about using cards. So React Daisy UI, hopefully they have cards we can use. And I believe I'm already using cards somewhere else. I am. I think I am. So let's just do cards. Usually it's easier just to use like something that exists already. But if I wanted to display a classroom, I'm going to put a card here with a key. And go ahead and close that. Classroom.name could be in the title. Don't have a description, so like I'll just put like some dots here. Here we go. And then I'll make a button called like manage classroom. How about that? All right, so we got some shoes popping up. So what we want to do is we probably want to make this a flex or a grid. I don't know which one we want to do. I'm going to wrap this whole map in a div, like so. I'm going to give this a name, a class name of grid call 3. And I thought this would make it become a grid. I think it's like, let's see, what am I doing wrong here? I think it's because this thing has flex on it. Let's go back. Why am I doing that flex stuff? Nice, that looks beautiful. All right, I need to rethink what I'm doing with my styles here because obviously. Grid call 3. I thought that's how you do it in Tailwind. I have a div here. I'm telling it needs to be 3 columns for a grid. Oh, it's grid calls 3. Dumb. You always make dumb mistakes like that. This is the main reason I switched to TypeScript. I always leave off the S's and like nothing works. So if you're a teacher, you have 3 classrooms, this is kind of what it's going to look like. This whole thing should probably be wrapped in a container. Let's look if we can remove some extra divs. And maybe even remove these to different like components. I think this component is getting a little bit complex maybe. Maybe it's fine. But like this whole thing, we could put in a container. So I'm going to say class name is this. And now it's in a container. It looks a little bit better. And then we have like these 3 things here that are really bunched up. So we could probably put this whole thing in a flex column and give it a gap of 8. And that should push some space in between every element. Or at least I thought it would. Not doing what I thought it is, but let's look at this. Okay, we got the modal down here. Okay, that's not that big of a deal. In fact, it probably makes more sense to make the modal like live outside of it. What am I doing? Let's do that. Just so it's like, from a standpoint, you can easily tell, okay, this is like the actual content. This is like a hidden modal. But that's just how it works in my head. But this thing, yeah, I'll just do a gap of 4. Let's look at this div. What is this div doing? Yeah, I think this component's just, it's too much. I'm going to go ahead and just abstract some of this stuff. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going to inline some functions here. Or if we wanted to, we could like pull them up here. I don't know. This would be called the empty state component. We're just going to return that div. And we're going to pass in a prop here. Just keep it simple and do some prop drilling. Oh, give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. Sorry, my kid opened the door. I forgot to lock the door while I do recordings. So let me know in the comments if you think this approach is like, am I doing some overkill here, or is this actually useful? So instead of having like empty state, because I think this stuff could get more complex as I decide like the empty state should do more. So I'm literally going to pull this out to a component. Maybe we can name it something better, like no classroom state. Or no classrooms. State doesn't make sense. I'll just say view component. I don't know. Naming stuff is hard. And then over here, we could also pull this out into a I'll say classrooms view. You can definitely call me out if you think I'm just making this more complex, but I feel like at some point it makes it harder to manage what's going on when you have like all this stuff everywhere. Do this. And this thing needs to take in classrooms. And this thing also needs to take in what? Open classroom modal. Okay, so this makes it easier to read from a glance that I have 3 states to this page. I have the loading state, I got the empty state, I got the classroom view. And I can easily just go up here and just look at anything I want to. And then even this, like, we could pull this out to a component too. Maybe we can inline this one. Const classroom card is a component. Return that. And then I will just go ahead and pass in classroom. You know, I'm going to pull that out here too. Missing the key. Let's go ahead and put the key there. Does that look better? Okay, what's going on here? I forgot to put parentheses. Okay. I don't know. You let me know if you think I'm just overcomplicating this. I just think it's easier to read through the component if like everything's broken into smaller components. Because now, like when I'm looking at a function, I don't have to worry about all this other stuff. Like I'm just looking at the view of the classrooms. And then over here, I'm just looking at a card for the classroom. And then now I can try to put some gap between these two things. Like that's that's the original thing I was trying to do, is find where this button was. Because right now we're in the classroom view, so I can go here. And then here we have a div that's wrapping the button and the grids. So quickly I can find where that is, and I can say flex column, gap of 4. Maybe we don't want flex. That's crazy. I forget how to like not tell this thing to grow. I think what I could do is just wrap this in a div too. Okay, looks okay. I'm not sure why this card looks weird. I think it's because the background color of the card is like matching the same background color of the page. So let's see if we can maybe change that. I don't even know where the background color is set up. Is that an index? Is that an app? Is it a document? Okay, the card doesn't even have color to it. That's kind of the issue. So if I change it back to gray 100 and I go back to my classroom screen and go to my card, I could add, I don't need a key here because that's handled somewhere else. I could add like a BG gray, BG white. Okay, that looks, there's something going on with these cards. Like this is supposed to expand to the full classroom, I think. I do have it on another page, I believe. So if I go to like pages / classrooms and ID, I have it on a teacher dashboard. I have a view here somewhere. Assignment card. It's the same type of card, but the difference I don't know why. Usually the image is supposed to be the full width. So that's kind of weird, but we'll figure that out. Not that big of a deal. But I do want to get rid of that loader in the background. So if I go back to the router, then get rid of this promise thing. We don't really need it anymore. We know that it loads. And then we should probably add some gap between these things. So like, let's find the location that we render out the classroom cards. And I'm going to go ahead and put gap of 4 between all these cards. That looks a little bit better. And probably go back to the chat for a little bit. If there's anyone. Oh, thank you so much for the super chat, Mitch. Really enjoy the weekend live streams and all the shorts you've been putting out. Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad they've been useful to you all. Oh wow, another super chat. Thank you so much, Hugo Santos. Thank you for live coding and your open-mindedness. Would be great to see you doing some PNPM monorepo with tRPC Next and a dedicated backend. I've never used PNPM before. I don't know. What does it provide over NPM? I'm just sometimes like, you know how you like meet an old person who's stuck in their ways? Sometimes I feel that way about coding and I have to like force myself to learn new stuff. But yeah, a monorepo with tRPC and Next. I could try doing that. All right, I'm sorry, let me scroll back up. Welcome, here, new subscriber. With the modal clicking the gray area makes the modal hide. I don't think they have that set up with this modal. I don't know why, but I should probably use a hook to make that hide. I don't know, this modal on React Daisy UI is kind of lacking. It's very basic. Like, I think I could still tab. Like, this is another thing with this modal. You see how I'm still tabbing around the manage classroom buttons on the back? That's not good, right? I should not be able to have the user interact with the things that are behind the modal. So overall, this whole modal's accessibility is awful. And I'm starting to double think like if I should even be using this modal. But it is what it is. We got it. I don't know why there's no click outside. I thought I had something. I do have a hook. So let's address this real quick. Let's address this because I do have a custom hook already that should close the modal potentially. Use click outside. All right, so I have a hook here that was in the header, but now I'm seeing more uses for this. In fact, I think there's like a npm package everyone uses, so I don't even know why I wrote my own. Sometimes I like to reinvent the wheel. So inside of components, I'm just going to go ahead and put hooks. And I'm going to pull this hook out from this common hooks, which is in the headers. I'm going to put this here. Probably just broke the header everywhere because sometimes refactoring in VS Code is not good. And then I can use this, use click outside, and I can put it on my modal itself. Let me close some stuff. I have too much stuff open. I don't know what I've changed at this point. I need to commit. Create classroom modal. So this thing, I could use that hook. I could say use click outside. And I'm going to pass it a ref and on close. So the ref could be here. I'll say modal ref is use ref. And we're going to put that here on this modal. Maybe it needs to go here. Maybe this has stuff built in. Sometimes I like implement stuff and like there's already the functionality right there. So like I'm wasting time, but I'm just going to go ahead and say handle cancel if you were to click outside. Sometimes you get this weird TypeScript error and you need to actually set the ref to null. But the idea is if I open the modal, dang, I don't think this is going to work. Use click outside. I think I need to put the ref on something else maybe. Yeah, see now it's not even working because I'm probably opening it and then closing it right after, which is not good. So we have to like know what button we're using. You know what? This is why you just use existing stuff. React, you use click outside. I know there's a hook that already does all this stuff. Is this the one that everyone uses? React, click outside. npm react with click outside. Yeah, I don't know. Enhance with click outside. Maybe I won't waste too much time with this. The issue, I believe, is like this thing is probably firing. When I click the button. Because let's go to the console. Fires 3 times. Why does it fire so many times? Oh, because it's also in the header too. So the issue is when I click on this button, that's probably changing the state to show the modal. And then the click outside thing is firing because I clicked on the button. So I have to like tell it to ignore when the user clicked on the button. I'm gonna go to the chat because someone knows probably exactly how I can fix this. You need stop propagation. Okay. Ugh, sometimes I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. So let's go to the classroom screen. We have a button called create a classroom. Open create classroom modal. Let's look where we're doing this button. I think we do it 2 places. We're calling the same function multiple places. So this is another good reason why you abstract your code, because now I'm calling this from 2 different buttons. I think someone's saying I could just do e.stop propagation here. Let's see if that does what I want. It doesn't do what I want. Propagation. I probably spelled it wrong. Forgot how you do this reactive and stuff. See React, TypeScript, on click button. I don't know why I can't memorize this. This is what I want. Okay. Let's just try this out. I don't know if this will fix our issue, but we have the event here, I believe, and we can say stop propagation. See, this is why I love you. I love the chat. The chat knows the answers for everything. You guys are awesome. Yeah, so we fixed that issue. Well, actually, no, did we? Can I click outside? I don't think I can yet. Probably rolling my own use a click outside handler is probably a dumb idea. So when let's see if this is even being called. I'll put a here. I'll put a console log that says here. Probably because I still have it on the modal. Where do I want it though? This whole modal. Modal box. Okay. Maybe it needs to be inside of this. Like I just need to wrap all this stuff in a div. I'm just doing some trial and error coding at this point. Like, open it, click somewhere. Okay. What am I doing? Maybe it's like losing everything I just added here. Like if I add like a hello world. Let me go back to the chat. Someone knows. Propagation. Thank you. The click outside hook might not be called because the modal contains the overlay as well, which is basically the whole screen. Yeah, but I mean, like, it's probably something I'm just not understanding. This is the div that I had the click outside applied to. And this stuff should have a higher Z index than that overlay, I would think. This is why you just use a library that has built-in accessibility, has better modals. Like, I'm about to just not use Daisy UI because this isn't something that I should have to worry about. I should just have this already provided to me. And I was kind of concerned when I started using this because it's like, there's not that many stars for this React Daisy UI. I mean, you could use the real Daisy UI, but I'm about to just drop this entire library because I'm noticing that it's not accessible. I'm noticing that you can't escape to close a modal. I'm noticing that you can't click outside and have it automatically close with a callback. Maybe it does. Let's see if they have any type of on-click. I'm retarded. Or sorry, I didn't mean to say that. It's not politically correct. But let's go and look at the docs. This is something I'm not good at. Look at the docs. They have an on-click backdrop. They have exactly what we need. And if I just read, like, it's disappointing. Close, handle close, handle cancel, whatever. Let's get rid of, don't know why we have that div there. Don't know if we need this div. I don't even remember what the modal looked like at this point. On click outside, we don't even need, I don't think. We don't need the ref. We don't need that. Does this work? Wow. Okay. So the lesson of what anyone watching the stream, the lesson is read the docs before you start playing around with stuff and just wasting time, because we don't need to add like this propagation stuff everywhere, because their library does actually provide a way to close it by clicking. I'm still not a fan with the escape key. Let's see if they have the ability to know when the escape key is clicked. Nope, I can't press the escape key. So, I mean, I guess it's good enough. Yikes, let me go back to the chat real quick. I am going to skim through stuff much faster because sometimes I just get caught up in like chat. Move the header component into the app.js file so that you don't need to rewrite that component in every page. Yeah, I think the only reason is that some pages don't want to have the header, I believe. Like if you go to the landing page, sometimes you don't want to have a header displayed. You just want a landing page with like no header. But yeah, I guess we could do that. Hovering over the classes displays the exact CSS code. I haven't tried that before, have I? Let's see. If I hover over a container. Oh yeah, I've seen that before. I just haven't really paid attention to it. Okay, yeah, I actually am sitting in a wheelchair right now. I'm not, we just sold our dining room table set, so I don't have a chair to sit on. This wheelchair was actually used for my wife when she was pregnant. She could not really walk around because she had something called pubic symphysis, which really made it hard for her to move. So the wheelchair was for my wife when she was pregnant, but no one in my household uses a wheelchair right now. I should probably find a real chair so that people don't think I'm actually using a wheelchair. But I had it in my closet with all my other junk, and I just needed a chair to record on. Let's see. I'm glad you guys are all trying to find the best ways to write the code. What do you use to show errors? This is error lens. The create classroom button only shows up if there are classrooms. It doesn't show in the empty state. How long ago was this? What time is it right now? 32, so I'm pretty far behind. Would I ever consider working at Fang? Yeah, I probably would. If they allowed remote positions. I think I contacted a Google recruiter one time and they're like, yeah, we don't do remote. You have to come in. So then I just stopped caring about Google. Like I've been working remote like since 2015 and I probably would never want to go back into the office. So wherever I work, I want it to be remote. Is he using Daisy UI with Tailwind? Yep. Stop propagation. Okay, we're all the way back there. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Do people use Meteor.js for development nowadays? I don't know. I haven't seen anyone use Meteor. I recommend Headless UI. Their modal has good stuff and is already implemented. Yeah, I might switch over to Headless UI. In fact, let's just make a to-do. Make a to-do here. Switch the modal to Headless UI or any other library that provides accessibility out of the box. Ivan says you shouldn't really keep modal component on pages dir. It creates extra route. So here's the confusing part. This is I have a pages directory and that's for Next. But inside of components, I have a pages folder. So I could probably rename this to screens. I've seen people do this. Maybe that'll make more sense. Go ahead and just close some stuff here. Make sure the app works. Still seems to be working. Need to commit soon. Let's just commit. So let's see. Working on the classrooms modal, having it close when clicking on backdrop. I don't know what else we worked on, but I'll just push that. Good enough, whatever. Cool. Try giving the card a padding top. You shouldn't really keep modal okay, yeah, this one is. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know if like the card has like some padding on it. Like I'm not sure why this figure is not expanding to the full. But honestly, like I don't want to worry too much about styling. I just want to worry about getting the functionality going. Because like even these colors aren't that great. So we have these different classrooms. When we click on manage classroom, I want to take it to the actual classroom we're trying to manage. So let's go to the classrooms screen. Let's find the manage classroom button. And I think I could just make this a link, like a React router link. Or not React router, a next link. Go ahead and give this an href of, probably need to do some string interpolation classrooms. And then I'm going to say slash, I could type classroom.id. There we go. Don't know if that's the proper way to do it. I think it is. So now when I click it, it takes you to a different page where you have your classroom that you're trying to edit. So let's look at this component here, classroom ID. This is calling teacher dashboard. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and copy kind of the layout of this one, like so. And go ahead and do that. Make sure we import this component. think that's the wrong one though. Better layout. Class room page. Class room screen. Let's go ahead and make another screen called classroom. And I'm going to go ahead and put that classroom screen here. Go ahead and do this. Get rid of the props real quick. Export it. Go back. Import this. Why is this complaining? Like, do I have to have this pass in props? Or default export? Void is not assignable to type next page. Void is not assignable. Oh, return statement, obviously. All right, so I think what we're going to need to do, though, is we need to get this from the URL. So we're going to have to do like a, I forget what it's called. Is it location? Is it you use query? Use router? It might be called use location. You know, I don't know. Let's see, router.query dot classroom ID, I believe is what I called it. I think this is how you do it. And then we could just go ahead and pass that in here like so. Then go to the classroom screen, and this should take in a classroom ID. And all this stuff, let's just go ahead and make this a basic placeholder. Probably give it a container. Get rid of this. And all this stuff could just go away. Let's just start fresh. Okay, there we go. And I can go back between my classrooms. Oh, what did I just break? Did I delete something? Gosh. Yeah, I deleted the wrong thing. Let's go back. Let's add all this stuff back in. You know, I could just do a git revert probably. I think this is the only thing that changed here. Let's look at the classroom screen. What do we change? We added a link. Okay, that's cool. What's going on here? Classroom screen takes in a classroom ID. And this thing, okay, I have two components named the exact same thing. This is probably one issue. This should be called classrooms. And if I could think of a better name for this, it would probably make stuff a lot easier. So let's just go ahead and go classroom screen, import that. And I'm going to delete that one. Classroom screen. Okay. Does that look better? There we go. Oh no, so many comments. For handling forms, I'm just using the React hook forms or React form hooks, whatever. I haven't done much splitting up the form components into smaller stuff yet, but I probably should. You've had some good unit testing TDD videos lately. Have you tried Pawnee Code VS Code extension for automated unit tests? No, I don't even know what that is. Is this some paid for solution? So it's an extension that on the right, it tells you what tests you have covering it, maybe? Looks interesting. I'll make a little note. I'll go back and check that out, but it looks cool. Is Next good to switch? I'm thinking about changing from React in Express to Next. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people use it. I don't see any issues with using Next. I think it just makes stuff a lot easier since they have like a built-in router. You don't have to worry about all this stuff. What's the problem with using the Modal Daisy UI? The only issues I have right now is that it's not very accessible unless you know of a solution. When I open this modal, I can still tab on the back of my page, which is not accessible at all. Like, you don't want your users to be able to tab for the buttons that aren't even like, shouldn't even be accessed. These should all be disabled from being tabbable. So I don't think this modal is created with accessibility in mind, which is why I might switch over to something else. I got the closing the modal by clicking outside working fine. I just needed to read their docs. Again, yeah, I could use the app. Maybe I'll just do that. I've gotten that comment twice. Why hooks folder live inside of /components? So I'm only putting the hooks as close to the code that's needing them for right now. I mean, yeah, I guess I could move the hooks up to the source folder, but it's not really a component. So that's a good idea. But right now, I'm going to move this back to my header component because right now it's like a hook that's only used in one place, and I don't feel like it's necessary to put your hook in a shared component folder until it's used multiple places. But right now, this hook is only used for the header. So I'm not going to put it inside like a hooks folder. If it's something that is actually used more than one place, then yeah, I'd probably put a hooks directory here and put it as a shared hooked. But right now, it's not necessary. Okay, let's just do that to do. A lot of people are talking about the layouts. Use the built-in Next.js use layout feature. I thought there was some issue with like using the use layout, which I have to read back on it, but yeah, it seems good. Typo, add spell check extension. Yeah, I probably should. I'm not using Vim. I'm just using the built-in VS Code shortcuts. Please use absolute paths. I don't know. I started using absolute paths and then I switched back to relatives because I think relatives just make more sense. I was getting weird errors where like my app wasn't properly finding stuff until I restarted my server. And then I had like some absolute paths, some relative paths. I don't know. I'm okay with using relative paths. Works fine for me. I haven't used Radix UI, so I don't know. Why separate screens and pages? So for me in my head, like a page, I need to plug my laptop in, but for me, a page like is a React page. And the reason I'm kind of abstracting that away is like, I don't want my actual screens to be coupled to Next. I want to keep my screens as decoupled from Next as I can in case I decide I want to switch to Remix or switch to something else. Because now all the main logic of my component is kind of built around these screens. And this doesn't know anything about Next.js. All it does is take in some props and that's it. So that's kind of why I'm separating them out. You can call that over engineering if you want. I'm calling that planning ahead. But I am going to switch over to my normal webcam because My phone is about to die, or my laptop's about to die. So let's just go ahead and do this. What is up? Unplug my phone. All right, let's go back to the code. I haven't checked out my stream in a while. Actually, let me. Give me 2 seconds. I want to go and see how long I've been streaming for by going to my stream on my phone. Oh wow, I got 100 people watching. That's crazy. Yeah, so I guess I'll just keep on trying to add features. So what should I add in? So when you go to a classroom, you want the ability to like upload assignments. Probably that's the first thing you can do. Maybe we can try to bring in like a table. Does that make sense? Does this thing have a table? It does. It's got a little table here. So let's go ahead and bring that in. All right, so let's actually what do we change? We changed a lot of stuff here. So again, let's commit. But also commit here. I don't really do the commit. I like using the terminal for some reason. I can go ahead and add all those changes in, and I can say working on creating the classroom screen in smaller refactors. Go ahead and commit that one, sync it. All right, so go to the classroom screen. And this is where we need to do some stuff. What do we need to do here? First of all, we need to fetch the assignments. So I'm going to go ahead and put some to-dos. Fetch the assignments associated with this classroom. Maybe we should have to do ability to create new assignments. View students. View the students currently enrolled. If you guys can think of other features, I could just add them in here. We can try to work on that. But first thing is, let's try to fetch the assignments. So I do think I have a query for getting the assignments. You give it a classroom ID. So what we could do is we could do React query, or I'm sorry, we could use the tRPC called, what service do you use to hosting images? I'm not hosting images in this app I'm building right now, but I probably would use S3. Super cheap, pretty easy to get stuff going. I'd probably just do an S3 and then just have people do a pre-signed URL to upload images there. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to do this one right here. So let's put a little arrow. Fetch the assignments. So I'm going to say const data assignments and is loading probably. We could do a very similar approach and say tRPC dot use query. Go ahead and find the assignments, and I'm going to pass in the classroom ID. So classroom ID. There we have it. We should get all the assignments, and we should also be able to do some like loading state as well if we wanted to. Let's just follow a similar approach of the other screen, and maybe we can kind of like find ways to dry up this code if that's needed. Because I think it's also going to be a similar approach where we have a modal showing and stuff like that. But let's just go ahead and pull out some of these things. Uh-oh, what did I do there? All right, so we're kind of doing just copy and pasting. Maybe we should like figure out a way to make this more generic and not do all this stuff. You know what we should also do is fetch the classroom name. So fetch the classroom data as well. We could focus on that one too. So we are getting the assignments for the classroom. So yeah, let's just do this. I'm going to say classroom, and I'm going to go ahead and get the classroom by the ID because I think we don't have a method for doing that. Let's not do that yet. I'm jumping around. Okay, so we're trying to show some different states based on what we're defined with. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this as well. Very similar layout. In fact, this could probably be copied and pasted, but I don't want to overly dry stuff yet until I really see a pattern emerging that can be dried up. But is loading no assignments component. That doesn't need to worry about a modal just yet. And this could be like assignments. I guess, I don't know if people add the suffix component to things. Maybe it makes sense just like not do that. But let's just make sure this works. So up here, I'm gonna go ahead and say we have no assignments. This is gonna return a div that says no assignments. And then over here, we have an assignments page that's going to do something similar. All right, and then this one should be show assignments. And that should take in nothing. So I'm just trying to like test this out to make sure that it at least shows something. So no assignments. We don't have any assignments attached with this classroom. And yeah, I think that's good. We can also try to fetch the actual classroom. So instead of displaying ID here, it'd be cool if we had the name displayed. So when this app first loads, we should probably do a query, which I don't think we have one. So we need to do a query against the backend to get the classroom by ID. And I don't think we have one that does that. So let's just make one real quick. Go ahead and copy this query here. I'm going to say get classroom. And then that'll take in the classroom ID, and we could just basically just say classroom. And that needs to do find unique, where classroom ID. Actually, I think we just call it ID is equal to input classroom ID. All right, we got an endpoint. We can easily just fetch it now. So let's just go ahead and do a use query. I'm going to do classroom dot get classroom, pass it the ID. We should get back the actual classroom data. I have some overloading going on here. I have two is loading. So I'm going to rename this is loading assignments and is loading classroom. Yeah, at work I do a lot of Amazon stuff, so I'm fully invested in Amazon. I do like S3, everything's in Lambda, API Gateway, CloudFront, OpenSearch, DynamoDB, basically everything in Amazon. Amazon has like thousands of or hundreds of services, and I only use a select few of them. But I've been using Amazon stuff for so long that it's like I would rather just use Amazon because that's what I'm used to versus getting tied into this third-party service. One thing you don't realize is most of these third-party services literally just take this thing that Amazon provide and they give you a cute UI to use it in. Like, I would bet that some of these like Cloudinary and other image hosting services, they probably just use like Amazon S3 under the hood. Like maybe they have their own data center and they're dealing with their own like image storages, but a lot of people just wrap Amazon UIs and provide you a better way to like interact with Amazon because sometimes Amazon's a little bit tedious to deal with, like their APIs. But I still love Amazon Web Services. I think they're really good. Yeah, hopefully you'll come back another time, Rick Turner. Thank you for watching the stream and for your kind words. Appreciate it. Man. All right, so we're just trying to display the name here. That's it. Do we need to actually check if this is loading? I don't know. But now we're displaying JavaScript Classroom. And I think it's pretty apparent, like we don't need to, I don't know, manage your, make this bold. How about that? I'm not a UX expert, but I don't know what text you put here, but I guess that's pretty cool. No assignments. So we should probably find like some undraw illustrations. Don't know what we should use here, to be honest. I'm zooming out so I can find the search bar. Which one should we grab? Let's grab this one. I'm gonna go ahead and show in folder. Assignments. Go ahead and copy this whole thing. I'm gonna put it in my workspace. What project am I using right now? I'm in online classroom. I'm in assets. Go ahead and paste that in there. Assignments SVG. And then let's go to the no assignments placeholder. And then let's go ahead and follow a similar approach where we did the image here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out. Okay, so like at this point, there's like patterns emerging where we could probably dry some of this stuff up. If we have like multiple pages that all look very similar with the placeholders and stuff like that, then it's always good to dry up code. Assignments image equals assets. I think you could call it assignments.svg. By the way, if you're watching the stream, do me a big favor and just click that like button because it helps my channel grow. That's it. That's the only thing you got to do. I'm going to go ahead and comment out, create a assignment. Easy UI. Justify center. You have no assignments yet. So I kind of wonder why is this? I probably broke the other page. So I messed up the styling here. I guess the I wanted to assign all this center. I guess this would just have to be text center. So I can say text center here. That'll pull that to the center. This button probably needs to be wrapped in a div, unless there's like another way I can do that. Just I don't want this thing being so big. I'm gonna go ahead and just text align that also center. So last name is text center. I think that'll align the button. Yeah. This thing looked weird, like the offset between the title and this. But it's probably fine for right now. Create a assignment. That needs to be an assignment. I know this whole page looks very similar to the last page, but I do believe that I'm going to have multiple panels here. Like you might have all your assignments on the left. You might have your students on the right or something. So I think it'll get more complex in a bit. But how should creating assignment go? Should we just do the exact same thing with the modal? I feel like I'm just literally copying the other page. The error extension I'm using is called error lens. Edwin, no, I have not used, or Edvin, I have not used Tailwind on a large scale project. At work, we use SAS. So that is what I use at work. But I'm assuming Tailwind works fine with large scale projects. I haven't heard of any stories about how Tailwind does not scale on a larger project. Yeah, I feel like I'm just copying all the code, but I guess it's fine right now. I'll just put a to do here and I will say, determine if I can dry up the classroom and classrooms pages modal stuff. I don't know, just a little thing there. So what does an assignment have? It probably has a name, and then it has like a text area, which I think I already have like a assignment modal. I actually already kind of created this in another thing. So maybe we could actually just kind of reuse this whole modal and look if there's any type of like overlap between these, which it looks like there probably is. But is there any reason to really dry this up? That's the real question. Like we could have this thing just taken a form as children. And then when you submit the form, you could do stuff with it. This is very specific as well. You know what? For right now, boom. This is literally how I code. I will copy and paste an entire component. Like I literally copy this verbatim. And then I will add on and change and modify the different modals. And then when I start seeing that there's so much duplicate code between the two, then I'll find a way to abstract them both. But until I've finished completing like two things fully, I won't start abstracting anything, because you can get yourself into a sticky situation where you've abstracted stuff that shouldn't have been abstracted to begin with. So I'm a big fan of write everything twice, the WET acronym. But let's just go here and create assignment form. I think this one does have a description. And if I look at the Prisma model, I have assignments here, and this has a name and a description. So we definitely want to use that. I'm going to go ahead and say classroom create assignment. Rename this to create assignment. This needs to take in a classroom ID, which we will have to pass in somehow. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass in classroom ID here. Technically, this thing could use the hook for getting the classroom ID from the Next router, but again, I don't want to couple my components in Next and just try to have stuff pass in if possible. What is the other thing we need? Description. Data.description. So very similar, when we submit the form, we create an assignment, pass it name, description, and classroom ID. And then this should be called create assignment. This could be commented out here. All right, let's go back to that create assignment button. Open classroom modal. Go ahead and pass that in. And then we could probably take in some of the other stuff. Classroom modal. We don't need this. Classroom screen. Where is that create classroom modal here? All right, I'm going to go ahead and just copy all this code. This one, I'm going to put to the top, called show create assignment modal. Go ahead and set that. This is going to do something similar. Handle. I know what you're thinking, y'all. Like, I'm just copying and pasting code everywhere. I do plan to come back and refactor this, okay? So just don't worry. I know it looks sloppy, because it is sloppy. Close assignment modal. I guess I could have did F2 to rename that. So this one needs an open classroom modal, which I should probably rename to open assignment modal. So let's go here and rename that real quick. Like so. Handle assignment modal close. Yeah, I think there's a modal that I need to display somewhere. So let's just go ahead and go back and put that there. I believe I use like a fragment here. That should be proper. What do I call it? Create assignment modal. Create assignment modal. So this one is actually in the teacher's dashboard. I'm going to move that over to this classroom page. Teacher dashboard could probably go away. I'm going to delete this whole thing. I don't think we need that anymore. I'm going to go back and check chat in a second. I'm just trying to get this to like a good stopping point. I think I have it spelled wrong. That's why it's complaining. Classroom ID is a string. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and rename that properly. I'll import that. And what are the things that we need? Close assignment modal. Handle close. Handle, what did we call this one? Handle assignment modal complete. On complete. Let's do that. Is open. Is assignment. Why is this not like autofilling? Probably because I'm typing the wrong stuff. This also needs a classroom ID. So classroom ID. Classroom ID. Don't need is loading classroom. I don't think we're doing anything with that just yet. Do we even define assignments anywhere? Oh, it's right here. Cool. Let's check chat. I'm probably gonna go back and try to dry this code up. Scroll back, let's scroll back. Are you going to keep all the fetching client side? I might move it over to get server-side props at some point. I mean, that's the whole point of Next, right? To use the client-side fetching of data. But for right now, I'm just setting it. I'm just doing the client-side fetching. I think mainly because tRPC, you have to like do some extra configuration to allow it to work from the API side. So I had to kind of figure out how to abstract my code a little bit better so I could do it from the back end. But optimistic updates. I haven't looked into optimistic updates. I mean, I believe it just uses React query under the hood. So when you have a use query thing here, you can actually call like an on, I don't know, you can do like on success or something. And I believe you can like have it just push in data to other queries if you wanted to. I have to look more into it. I haven't done it yet. Thank you, Sheldon. Hope you guys are learning from this stream. For processing so yeah, if you actually want like the fully baked, like you upload someone uploads a large image and then you like process it into a bunch of smaller images and scale it down and do whatever, I would probably find a third-party service and not use Amazon. I mean, if you can do it inside your Next.js app with the API folder, you could probably do that. Honestly, just do whatever's easiest. Do whatever's easiest first of all, and then if it like doesn't work out or if you need to change it because it's not scaling, then do that. I think Vercel might have like a limit of 10 seconds for your lambdas. I could be wrong about that. And maybe they increase it as you get more stuff, but I think there's like a 10-second limit. Oh, never mind. It depends on your plan. So if you're enterprise, you get 30 seconds, which enterprise I think costs like $1,000, $2,000 a month for Vercel, which is ridiculous. So they kind of hard cap you at 10 seconds for pro, which is the question is 10 seconds enough to process your images? If it is, then you can do it in API. If it's not, you're either going to have to upgrade to Enterprise and pay a lot of money, or you have to do it yourself in Amazon Lambda or use a third party like Cloudinary that does all these image processings for you. What extensions? What's the extension for the color indents? I'm using Rainbow Indent, I believe. And then the error extension is called Error Lens. So for whoever just joined, I am just working on a little side project where you can kind of create online classrooms, upload assignments, students can enroll, you can chat with students, you can have the students upload homework assignments, and you can grade them and stuff like that. Just something fun to kind of have content to build upon. How to move slider left and right with button. I'm not sure what that question is. I'm not working on a slider right now. Can you talk about the online payment process? How does it work? So I'd probably figure out how to use the Stripe API. They have a really good API for like setting up payment systems. I did it in like another side project. I haven't really fully tested it though, but it seems like it's kind of straightforward to get going. Which carousel or image library would you use? I'm not really sure. I just Google it and find the first one that pops up with the most stars, to be honest. That's how I decide what library to use, honestly. I have not used Tailwind in any large scale project. I haven't looked at Skeleton UI, but I might check it out if it's a better UX and it uses Tailwind. If it doesn't use Tailwind, I'm not really interested, but any useful VS Code shortcuts? I have a video on my channel where I kind of talk about all the shortcuts I use. Assignment has a file upload, perhaps. Yeah, I think this modal, we probably want to have some type of like a way to attach files and store them in S3. What else do we want? Probably want a due date. We probably want a, I don't know what else we might want. I don't think a modal is the best place for this, honestly. Like we might have to change this to a separate page. So that's what I meant by just do the thing that works first and don't like try to dry up your code, because you're going to start adding things to your modal and you're going to realize, oh, okay, the modal is not the good place to do this. Let's go back to chat real quick. You publish your apps with images or SVGs, and what is the best approach to handle such media? I think the idea is just keep them as small as possible. SVGs are probably going to be your smallest because they're just like literally mathematical like computation points, and then the browser draws them for you. Like I think this SVG probably is super small. Let's go ahead and look at this reveal in Finder. Let's go ahead and look at this. Get info. It's 4 kilobytes for this SVG versus this image is 70 kilobytes. So if you can use SVGs, especially for like hand-drawn stuff like this, then I would use SVGs. But some stuff you can't use SVGs for. You actually need an image, right? So if you can use a JPEG and have it compressed enough where it's not ugly and have it like small enough where it's not like 100 megabytes. Even this 38 megabytes, this is pretty big, I think, for an image. I'd probably see if I can compress this and find ways to reduce it. But I think Next by itself, whenever you use the image component in Next, I think it actually takes your image and it does some like processing for it so that it'll scale it down for mobile. You might have to go read about that. But I think anytime you use this Next/image, when you build your application, like npm run build, it actually looks at the image you're importing and it'll kind of like scale it down based on mobile, tablet, desktop. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Yeah, so we got a modal here. It looks pretty good. I'm gonna commit what I have. I think we made some progress. Let's go ahead and commit. I'll just go ahead and add everything, and I'll say working on the classroom page and displaying a modal to create new assignments. All right. I might make a separate page for this. Might make it like a create assignment page. I don't really know yet. I just don't think the modal is going to be able to support all the things that assignments might need. So let's just get this hooked up to the backend so we can have stuff show up. But I think hopefully you guys agree with me that like this modal is just not going to cut it in terms of UX. So when you submit the modal, don't know where I'm doing that. I've already forgotten. Oh, the modal itself is what has this logic. So when we submit this modal, instead of saying, let's see, classroom create assignment. Oh, this actually should work. I think what we need to do is we just need to refetch the... Am I changing the wrong page again? No, I think I'm good. Okay, get classroom for teacher. We don't need that inside the classroom. We need here the assignments. I'm going to say refetch. I'm sorry, refetch assignments. And when this thing's done, I'm going to refetch the assignments and close the modal. Does that seem good? Let's test it out. And assignment about JavaScript proxies. Make me something. Great that the assignments popped up. Cool. Let's get a table going. I haven't used a table yet for this, so let's just go ahead and see if we can get a table. I'm gonna go ahead and put that whole table inside of this, like so, and just import this and see what happens. Daisy UI. All right, so first of all, I'm gonna make a div. I'm gonna give it text for Excel. I'm gonna say your assignments. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap that in a fragment too, like so. A little big. I think we should make this maybe an H. I think for screen readers and whatnot, although I don't think this needs to be anything with search engine optimization, like probably want to use headings properly. And then we should probably add some gap between the stuff. So let's go down here and maybe gap 8 would be better. Space that a little bit more. And then let's go ahead and see if we can get these assignments pulled in, right? So this little assignments component, I need to pass in assignments here and find where we use assignments. I'm going to pass in assignments like so. And that should be an array of all the assignments we have created. So we can just map over them. Maybe we should also do like how many assignments we have. So const total assignments is equal to assignments of length. One total, cool. And then we can go ahead and like, I don't know if we need a description. Maybe we should just do the description. Let's just do the name and the description. And then this is the repetitive structure. So we can just do a map here. Assignment is going to be a function that returns this whole thing. Like so, delete this. Assignment is defined but never used. So print out the name. We're going to say assignment.name and also assignment.description. I don't know what this one stands for. I don't think we actually need the one. I'll get rid of it for right now. So why is this complaining? Oh, key assignment dot complaining. Oh, okay. So the issue is assignments was not defined. So I need to actually like make sure I I want to have some TypeScript intelligence going on, so I'm going to say assignments is a assignment from Prisma. And now, if I do dot, we get description to pop up, I believe. No, it's still not working. Why is this not working? Oh, this needs to be an array. Duh. There we go. Does the IntelliSense work now? There we go. And then obviously, why is this bold? I want that to be bold. Why is that bold? That's just how it works. Is the first row always going to be bold? I'll just say like number, and then I'll put index here. Usually I don't like using indexes. I rather have like an actual like ID, but the way this thing is set up, they're bolding the first assignment number. Yes, I do have Next Auth set up so you can log in. If I could go over here and show you, I can log out. And I can log in and like register with Google and stuff if you wanted to. And then I can go to my classrooms and I can manage like my assignments and stuff. These images are kind of janky when they load. I don't know if I need to find some ways to do like interlacing or whatnot. I think it's also because it's loading these images from a third-party service. I haven't gone through and actually like allowed people to upload images. But yeah. Go ahead and put this thing back down at the bottom. Oh, here it is. Let's check out chat. Yes, I work as a software engineer right now. I'm like a full stack engineer, and I also do a lot of DevOps work when I need to. Let's see, the actions can be moved to a state following the criteria of clean code. That actions can be moved to a state. Don't know what you mean there. What action? What's up, Max Programming? Yeah, the T3 stack, I mean, like, you see how quick it was for me to add an endpoint and just connect to it? Like, you don't have to think about anything. You don't have to think about, like, adding separate REST API routes. It's just super fast. I do think it might have some issues with, like, if your backend's written in Go, like, obviously you can't use tRPC, but so far I love it for making side projects. Just notice that you're not reusing the types from your backend on your front-end forms. From my front-end forms. Like the Zod types? I guess I could. I'd actually need to figure out how to do that. Like, I probably shouldn't have to duplicate this. For what I've seen, though, is like you'll have a backend that... Yeah, I don't know. I guess what you're saying is like I could basically somehow get the Zod types here and I can use that on my front end. That's what you're talking about. I need to kind of look up on that. But I am using my Prisma data types in my front end. How do you optimize images with Next? I thought you just used the Next image component and it kind of does the optimization for you. I would go to the docs and read through the Next image component. Right now I prefer Tailwind, but at work I'm forced to use Sass because we have to use a design system that is built off of Sass. So sometimes the business requirements are going to dictate the stack that you use, unfortunately. And there's not much wiggle room around that. So I mean, if you go to someone's asking, how do I configure this for server-side rendering? just go to the docs and go to SSR. I'm sure they have something here. Right here, they tell you how to do it. So read this section. I think it's a matter of just like turning SSR to true somewhere. I don't know. Read through it. They'll tell you how to do it. What is the best first thing to do before code to start building a full stack web application? Like planning design, I usually get excited to jump onto the code first and I eventually fail. Usually it makes sense to focus on one feature at a time and then focus on your backend data models first. Like I start with Prisma. I'll create a model, make sure it's set up kind of correctly. Like when I need to add the ability for users to upload assignments, I'll create this assignment model. I'll hook it up somehow with the other models. And then I go to my router and I make endpoints that allow me to do the exact thing I need. So for example, if the first thing I need to do is allow users to create an assignment, I'll make a create assignment mutation. That's it. I'll just focus on a one little a vertical slice of user story or functionality. And then I'll go to the front end and I'll start trying to figure out a way to call this front end or back end endpoint on my screen, right? So in this case, I'm using a modal. The modal will make a request to that mutation. And then once I have that all set up, I'll go into the Prisma Studio, make sure my data is getting pulled over. And then I'll move on to the next one. How do I get the assignments back? So I'll go like get assignments. I'll make a new query for getting the assignments. I'll make the resolve function. And then I'll go to my front end and say, okay, I need to figure out how to display these. And then I code that up. That's the way I work. I don't really sit there and design like all my data models. I don't sit back and try to understand like the whole way the system's going to work. I just add a feature at a time and I let my system evolve like naturally. Okay? I think that's the best way to work. It's the most agile way to work. You'll find things that don't work if you just like, if you sit down and try to design everything up front, when you actually start implementing it, you're going to run into issues where you're like, oh man, I kind of poorly designed this and I have to go back and redesign everything. Versus just design as you go is kind of something that that I strive for. It just makes it easier, I think. But you just have to make sure you allocate time to go back and refactor and rethink what you're doing and try to find ways to like improve your code. Because if you don't allocate like a good chunk of your time for just cleaning up technical debt, refactoring code, you're going to end up building a giant ball of yarn that's very hard to manage. So always like just spend out like an hour or 2, 3 hours just reading through your code and say, is there a better way I can do this? Is there a cleaner way I can do this? Or does this work for my needs? All right, let me get off my soapbox. By the way, I think Max Programming has a YouTube channel, so go check him out. I haven't checked him out in a while. Let's see if he still makes stuff. Let's see. When's the last time you published something? 4 months ago, my friend, you need to publish some more videos. But yeah, go check him out. He has a programming channel. He makes some cool stuff. I hate how this chat like jumps to the bottom. Like I'm reading something and then boom, it just forces me to go read the new messages. I'm just working on a little side project for kind of creating online classrooms for teachers and students. What is the average front end developer salary? Just go to like one of those sites that tells you that. I don't know. Go to glassdoor.com. Yep, there's login. What table are you using? I'm using the table built into this React Daisy UI thing. Oh, it looks like I use Zebra True. Let me try that real quick. So on the classroom screen, where's the table? I'll say Zebra is true. Although we only have one assignment, so it doesn't really make sense. But I'm going to add a button over here on the right called like add assignment. Where should that come? That should go right here. I'm going to go ahead and div class name. I'm going to flex gap. I'll do gap of 4. Actually, I'm gonna do justify between, I think is how you do it. And what I want to do is I want to put a button here on the right, like so. And that button is going to be the exact same button that we did somewhere else. This one. I'll go ahead and copy that in. And I'm going to go ahead and paste this method in. And this one I need to make a void. What's it called? Let's just go ahead and copy this whole thing. So just doing some prop drilling so this assignments component knows how to actually open up this thing. Now, I kind of like it better if this is like right next to this title here. So maybe I won't do space between. Instead, I'll just... I'm changing the wrong thing, aren't I? I do that sometimes. I work too fast and I start making mistakes. So like what I actually want to do is I'm just going to gap of 8 it. Oops, much. There we go. Looks kind of weird. I think I need to like items center this. There we go. And then I think I could probably add some gap in between the table and this. So I'm gonna go ahead and make this a div. I'll say flex column and gap of 4. Go ahead and change this to a div as well. There we go. That looks a little bit better in my opinion. I would like if this button was here. Or I could put the button at the bottom. I don't know, what do you all think? Should the button be at the bottom or the top? I think if this thing gets really long, and you have a lot of assignments, I would hate to have to force the teacher to scroll to the very bottom of the page to create an assignment. This is why I like to put it next to the title. It is a little big though. I wish I could kind of scale it down. Is that possible? Size. I could do small. Oh, nice. So let's go to this button here, and I'm going to go ahead and say size of... Try small. See how it looks. That looks... I think that looks better. It's less distracting. Yeah, so let's go ahead and commit. What did I change here? I added a table. So adding a table to display the assignments. Commit, sync it. Here we go. Make small commits and commit them often. Some of the best advice I can give. There's so many times where like you're working on code and you start changing stuff and you have like 1,000 files you changed and then you break something. And you're like, oh, what did I break? And you go back to your git diff and you have like 1,000 files and you're like, oh, well, I don't know what I changed that broke everything, but now I have to basically spend 2 hours doing a scavenger hunt of command Z's to go back in time to figure out what did I change that just broke everything. Okay. I'm not doing any lazy loading in this app. I mean, for the most part, every page by default, Next is gonna like lazy load and do code splitting for you, I believe. So it's like, there's nothing much here I really need to lazy load. If I had like an actual like, I don't know, like a rich text editor, maybe I would do some lazy loading, but honestly, we're talking like kilobytes. Like this modal could be lazy loaded, but we're talking about saving like 1 kilobyte of data, which there's always going to be a ping. There's a latency of hitting your backend every time, which is going to be much bigger than what it is to download an extra kilobyte of data. So I would lazy load only when you see that there's actually like a performance issue. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the other end of the spectrum. If you are working with a designer, then the designer is going to give you how their UI should look like. But when it comes to the coding part of things, and if you're the only person doing the design and the coding, I rather let the application evolve, because you don't know something's good until you build it, right? You don't know if this button is better here or is better here until you have 1,000 assignments here. And then you realize, oh, the button should have never been at the bottom of this table to begin with. It should have been over here. Or maybe you decide that instead you're going to do like a little drop down here because the button's really an eyesore, and you could have a button over here that you can click, and that has a drop down of a bunch of things you can do with this table. So my approach is design as you go, because you don't know what the best design is going to be for your users until your users use it and give you feedback. Yeah, Justin, if you talk out loud while you code, I mean, you should make a YouTube channel. You're already there. That's like the hardest part about this channel is just know how to communicate your thoughts as you're coding. Have I tried Atomic Design? I have not tried Atomic Design. But I mean, Tailwind CSS uses like Atomic CSS. I don't know if that's the same. I have to go look it up. I'm not a UX person, honestly, or a designer. How do I know all these things? I've been working as a web developer for like, I've been programming for like 10 years almost, since 2013. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know, honestly. But anyway, yeah. Let me not. Let's see. How is the M1 holding up? I still love it. I'm glad I bought this computer. Like you'll notice, it's funny if you go back to my channel. Let me show you something. Let's see. I have a sticky note on my page, so I remember not to like show code that's blocking my webcam. Is that my channel? Where did I get my M1? Comparing my, okay, so like around here, it's like I was using my old laptop here, I believe. And then I got my M1, and you'll see that I basically started publishing videos every day in shorts. Because the M1 is so much more faster than my other computer that I'm able to process all these videos and publish them and like edit them and record them. And I have so much more disk space that I'm able to crank out content at a much rapid pace than I was before with my other laptop. Like it used to take forever to edit videos on my other laptop. So I definitely love it. I recommend it. Off topic, but what do you think a good developer portfolio should contain? I don't really do any type of hiring stuff. I don't do interviews. But if someone were to come to me and show me a portfolio, I would want one project that has a ton of features in it. If you show me a portfolio that has like 7 different projects and one's like tic-tac-toe and the other one's like Connect 4 and then you have another one that has like 1 page and you use like React Router and you have 1 page, that's not impressive to me. What it would be impressive is if you have like an actual application, kind of like this, where you have multiple pages, multiple features, modals, login functionality. If you can show that on a portfolio, I think that's what you want. I know it's harder to like get towards that, but that's what I would kind of look for. Let's see, Max Programming, let it make it clear I'm participating in an online 24 hours hackathon. Yeah, I don't know, just I would just jump to the coding, but that's just me. I've been doing it for so long. Maybe I don't need to plan as much because the planning is all done in my head. Yeah, at the very least, you could probably like sketch stuff up on a paper or use like a mock-up thing, especially if you're working with a team of people. If you're working with a team, then yeah, it helps to slow down and plan a little bit so you can distribute that work to multiple people. But if you're just working by yourself, like just do whatever helps you stay focused. Yeah, this app uses Next.auth right now. I can log in with Google. Is this something I can use instead of the regular REST API? tRPC is used if you're using TypeScript and TypeScript on the front end and the back end. And you can use it instead of your traditional RESTful APIs if you want to. How do you use your Prisma types in the front end? I just import them. So like this assignment is a Prisma type. And if you look up here, I'm just importing them directly from @prisma/client. That's it. Yeah, just import them and use them. What are the pros of using tRPC? Can you not manage without using tRPC in the next project with Prisma? I mean, you don't have to use tRPC. tRPC is just a way to like, I think it allows you to more rapidly prototype your application because I don't know if you were there the whole stream, but it's pretty quick to build a new endpoint, right? I could just go here, I can make a new endpoint, do some stuff, return that data, and then on my front end, I could quickly just query that data and I get all the IntelliSense that I need with TypeScript. So you don't have to do that. If you want to make your API in Go and just use REST, like that's cool. But if you have a project that's fully in TypeScript, I don't see why you wouldn't use it. I think there are some downsides to using tRPC. Like, let me show you real quick. If you look at the actual request, it's very. Let's see if I can go here. Preview session. This isn't it. Get assignments. So look at the payload you have to send to it. Like you're not going to be able to do this in Postman, right? This is going to be way too hard to do in Postman. So that's the one downfall of tRPC, and the data you get back is in such a weird structure that it's not really intuitive. So you do kind of cut out your ability to use Postman to just hit your endpoints and test things. That is the one thing that I'm kind of like, I don't know, I'm not a fan of it. Especially if you have a larger project and you need to write a bunch of like SH scripts and you need to run scripts to inject data into your back and your API. Now you've kind of shot yourself in the foot because it's not very easy of how do you insert data, how do you extract that data from your tRPC router. So it's good if you have a UI that you can quickly like connect to your mutations and your queries and like integrate and test. But when it comes to using Postman and stuff like that, you just kind of blown away all that developer experience, in my opinion. So there's some trade-offs to it. I wouldn't just blindly use tRPC because unless someone can explain to me a better way to use like Postman to hit my endpoints. But you'll notice that like it's literally impossible now. Like, what is this? I have no idea what this stuff is. Like URL encoded, whatever. Try without rounded and a little bit less padding. At the top of a fab, a plus icon. Ah, yeah, I would. That's a good idea. Adding a plus icon to the button. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, I don't know. You could have a plus icon here or a plus icon here, and maybe it would be less like verbose. But again, I'm not a UX expert, so. Yeah, it's good to have like, you're working on a story and you have like 50 commits. That's much better than having one giant commit and you have no idea like how did the code evolve over time. And it's very hard to like revert stuff because now it's just a giant commit. When I wrote lazy loading, we were speaking about the images that are not loaded. Oh, my bad, my bad. Yeah, so you could lazy load the images. That's 100% you can. But there's only 3 images on this page. I mean, I've seen what people do is they'll have like a blurred out low quality image, and then they will replace that when the image is fully loaded. I think there's a library in React that can do that. But again, I'm not focusing on the user experience right now. I'm more focusing on the features and the functionality. I'm not really, I don't really care about doing Mongo stuff about right now. I'm just focused on Prisma and SQL. What does your .env look like? I'm not falling for that one. I guess I'm curious, why do you want to know? Like, I just don't want to leak any sensitive information, although it's like, I think I had like one key for Google login or something, which wouldn't be a big deal if I leaked. What are you currently learning or building in your skills? I mean, right now I'm learning Next.js. Right? I don't use Next.js on my job. I don't use Tailwind at my job. I don't use tRPC at my job. I don't use Prisma at my job. I don't use Daisy UI at my job. I don't do any of the things I'm doing on my YouTube channel are things that I do to learn, right? Most of the things I do on my YouTube channel, I don't do at my full-time job other than React, but that's about it. Like I don't use the typical way that you're seeing me do like all these custom hooks. I don't do that at my job either. I use a different state management library that decouples all my logic from my components. Like this is not something I'd ever do at my project at work because we have a certain structure that we try to follow at work. So literally everything I do is new to me, which sounds crazy, but I'm like trying to teach you all how to do it. So take everything I teach you with a grain of salt. How do you say that? Take everything I say as a grain of salt or with a grain of salt. Oh, Mitch, yeah, go to join my Discord, Mitch. There's a channel called Community Chat Room or Community Online Classroom or something. And then go to the pinned messages. You'll see a .env file you can use. Just put that right in your .env file and you should be good. How to improve coding skills, like become really good at it. You just have to practice. Like there's no way to get good at coding unless you just code. I'm gonna block this person. Like I don't know what they're saying. Hide user from channel, report. Should I report them? Hide them. Like they were pasting like a link, but like doing it in different. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't block them. Do you do portfolio reviews? Love your content. Yeah, if you send me a link, I could probably try to do that. I don't know if would people be interested in me doing portfolio reviews. I know I've been doing a lot of code reviews. I'm getting kind of burned out on doing code reviews because it's like, I don't know, it's a lot of effort, like looking at people's code and like refactoring and stuff. I know people get a lot of value out of that, but it just takes a lot of time, especially when the code is like super confusing and it's like a new code base and you're not used to it. Is it possible to use local storage on the server? No, I don't think so. Local storage is a browser only thing, so you'd have to use it in the browser. You can use tRPC Open API for public facing API. I have to check that out. That might be much better than what I'm doing with because you can't use Postman, like I said, and it makes it really hard. Have you heard of SurrealDB? Nope, have not heard of that. That's mine, thank you. Oh, nice, I will send mine later. Let me check how long I've been streaming for. 2.5 hours. I think I'm gonna wrap this up. Update to do. Any last comments or questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, join my Discord. You can ask me questions or ask other people in my Discord questions about anything coding related. And like always, like this project, let me paste the link. I think it's in the description of the video, but if it's not, you guys can feel free to go and look at this code if you want to like follow the approaches that I'm doing. Again, this is like a work in progress, so it's going to evolve over time, hopefully. But feel free to check it out. Yeah, actually implementing the Stripe API is a little bit confusing. They have a lot of features and it's really hard to like know like what's the best way forward to like set up stuff. MiguelDev.me. Again, Code Shark, like join my Discord and send me a message and I'll check it out later and maybe I'll make a video about it. Or just anyone who wants like a review on their portfolio. Maybe I'll just do like one video and just review some stuff. I have a user with posts, but when I import user types from Prisma clients, I get autocomplete posts. Try restarting and rerunning Prisma migrate maybe. I've noticed that sometimes your TypeScript doesn't work unless you rerun the migrate. Do you think frontend is oversaturated? I don't know. I mean, I think they're trying to. I think companies are always trying to hire new developers to work on their projects. But I think if you were to focus on backend, it might be a little bit easier to find a job because everyone learns front end first because it's a little bit easier, I think. Although backend's pretty easy too. Like I don't think it's too difficult. But if you were to also like focus on the backend and stuff and be exposed to backend ideas and I don't know. It could always just help you. Yeah, you can collaborate. You'd have to go and fork this project and then submit pull requests if you want to. And I can get them merged in if you just try to work on it. But join my Discord. You can get the .env file if you want to like hit the ground running quick. But that's about it. I mean, if you guys have any last remarks, actually, I'm just gonna call it. I'm gonna call it. So thank you all for watching the stream. Hope you guys learned something. Yeah, Mitch, go to my Discord and look at the pinned comments of that channel. You'll see the .env file there. Copy and paste into your project. You should be good to go. Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take to learn backend. That's up to you and how much time you put in. I'm still learning everything every day, so that should kind of explain something to you where you don't just like 3 months you know backend. It's a lifelong journey of learning stuff. All right, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I'm going to go ahead and call it. Leave a comment. Press that like button before I leave. And yeah, maybe next weekend I will stream again.